What's up, guys? You're watching Forward Tech with Akhan. On this channel, we talk about technology that's shaping our future today. And in this episode, I put together a supercut of everything Elon Musk said at Tesla's 2023 Investor Day. Go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel because I've got more Investor Day videos coming out. Also, make sure to follow me on my other social media. You can find all those links in the description. Let's jump right in.
All right, master plan part 3. So, as Zach was mentioning, the thing that I think is we wanted to convey, probably more importantly than anything else that we talk about here, is that there is a clear path to a sustainable energy Earth. It's not, it doesn't require destroying natural habitats. It doesn't require us to be austere and stop using electricity and sort of be in the cold or anything. The story, and I think this holds together quite well, and we'll be actually publishing a detailed white paper with all of our assumptions and calculations, is that there is a clear path to a fully sustainable Earth with abundance. In fact, you could support a civilization much bigger than Earth, than much more than the 8 billion humans could actually be supported sustainably on Earth. And I'm just often shocked and surprised by how few people realize this. Most of the smart people I know actually don't see this clear path. They think that there's not a path to a sustainable energy future, or at least there's not one that is sustainable at our current population, or that would have to resort to extreme measures. None of this is true. So we're going to walk through the calculations for how to create a sustainable energy civilization. Yeah, it's like some of this I'm going to elaborate because there's a very wide range of technical expertise out there, from people who are like, whatever, level 9 wizards in the subject, to people who do not do engineering at all. So if you have a gasoline car, you're converting less than a third, often maybe only 25% of the energy in the gasoline is converted into motion. The rest is turned into waste heat. That doesn't do any good at all. And there's a lot of energy required even to get the oil out of the ground, to refine the oil, and to transport the gasoline to the gas station. So when you look at all that, for a typical gasoline car is actually going to be using less than 20%, fully considered, of the energy from the oil actually goes into motion. So this is when we see people doing calculations for what does it take to create a sustainable energy Earth, they assume that the same energy amount is required for an electrified civilization versus a combustion civilization. This is not true, because most of the energy of combustion is waste heat. Yeah, and we're being conservative here, so it could be better than half, but we're trying to have assumptions that are reasonable, not overly optimistic, in fact slightly pessimistic. So it's really better than half, but just say it's easy to make the argument that we need half as much energy with an electric economy versus a combustion economy.
Yep.
The thing that is needed at very large scale that is not currently present is a vast amount of battery energy storage. Our rough calculations are that this is about 240 terawatt hours, or 240,000 gigawatt hours. This is a lot of batteries, but it is actually a very achievable amount. We'll go into details on that.
Yep.
So that's a combination of electric vehicles and stationary storage. So if you've got solar or wind, you've got to store the energy when the wind is not blowing, the sun is not shining. And so we're assuming sort of an 8-to-1 ratio of stored energy to power. So 30 terawatt hours of power, 30 terawatts of power. Our actual capital expenditure calculation for manufacturing investment is more like 6 trillion, but we made it higher to make it 10 trillion. Now, if you look at the total world economy, it's just under 100 trillion. So if this was spread out, say, over 10 years, it would be 1% of the global economy. Over 20 years, it would be 0.5%
Very
of the
doable.
global economy. So this is, not a big number relative to the global economy. As Drew mentioned, you need about half as much energy with an electric economy versus a combustion economy. And in terms of wind and solar, how much land would be used? It's less than 0.2% of the land area of Earth. Generally, people don't realize quite how much energy is reaching us from the sun. It's roughly a gigawatt per square kilometer. And the sun doesn't shine all the time, but it's if you multiply that by, say, 4 to get the continuous power, 4 or 5, then that gives you the land area of solar. And you can put wind and solar often in the same place. So a lot of places that currently have wind, you could have solar there, and you double your. Anyway, the point is that with a really a remarkably small amount of Earth's land area, we can go fully sustainable.
And do the resources and raw materials exist to support this transition? We'll go through that in detail, but we do not see any insurmountable resource challenges at all. In fact, in the end, we should be mining less ore to accomplish this economy than we currently do with the fossil fuel economy, and we're going to talk through that.
Yeah, just to emphasize that again, the electrified economy will require less mining than the current economy does.
Yes.
Less, not more. Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion is that as we improve the energy density of batteries, you'll see all transportation go fully electric, with the exception of rockets. That's awkward. But you can make the fuel with CO2 and water. So you can make methane with CO2 and water. So
and you can do that with just electricity. So.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So in fact, on Mars, if we hopefully get there at some point, the atmosphere is CO2 and there's water ice throughout Mars. So you can take the CO2 and H2O and turn that into CH4, which is methane, and oxygen. So ultimately, even rockets can be electrified. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously happening very rapidly, and I mean, I think really all cars will go to fully electric and autonomous. And so riding a non-autonomous gasoline car is going to be analogous to riding a horse and using a flip phone. That's basically going to be the situation. Fewer vehicles will be needed, at least passenger vehicles, with autonomy. So there's some debate as to what that number is, but it's some number less than the number of vehicles needed today. There's roughly 2 billion cars and trucks in operation in the world today. Yeah, so we're basically heading rapidly towards an electric or autonomous future.
Exciting.
Yeah. There are now cars, now as default, and at some point we might make a heat pump for our home. So some of this, there's like room to disagree, but some amount of hydrogen is needed for industrial processes. My personal opinion is that hydrogen will not be used meaningfully in transport, and shouldn't be. If you're going to use a chemical fuel, you should use CH4, not H2. But nonetheless, it is needed for industrial processes and can be produced just by splitting water, essentially.
I mean, something that's been done for decades and decades. Yeah. This is not, rocket technology.
Yeah. To really get long-range aircraft and long-range shipping to use lithium-ion, you need to redesign the ship and not just...
or the plane.
And the plane. To take advantage of the fact that it is a new source of energy. It's a different architecture. So just like with an electric car, you wouldn't just take a gasoline car and stick a battery in it. That's very suboptimal. It's much more efficient to have the battery be the structure of the car. and you know, make it mass efficient and optimized for batteries. The same, if that's done with aircraft, I think you can get long-range aircraft at around with cells at around 450 watt-hours per kilogram, which you can buy it right now. Actually, they're expensive, but I think that price will come down. Yeah, and it doesn't need to displace farmland or you know, forests or jungle or any kind of ecological preserve. It can be used in very sparsely populated desert regions. There's essentially no meaningful ecological impact. In fact, transition to a sustainable energy economy would result in a substantial reduction in current ecological impact. There still seems to be quite a bit of confusion about lithium. Lithium is extremely common. It's one of the most common elements on Earth. There's no country that has a monopoly on lithium, or even close to it. There's enough lithium ore in the United States to electrify all of Earth. If the United States was the only place producing lithium, there's enough domestic material to electrify Earth. It's very common. The limiting factor is the refining of the lithium into battery-grade lithium hydroxide or lithium carbonate. That's the actual limiting factor. Nickel is maybe of them all the trickiest one to solve, but as we showed with the graph there, maybe need like 30% of the world's known nickel reserves. So,
and the nickel reserves have actually grown since 2000. So.
There is more, exactly. So, and you only need nickel for basically aircraft, long-range boats, and very long-range cars or trucks. But the vast majority of the heavy lifting for electrification will be iron-based cells. And iron is actually literally the most common element on Earth. So, a little trivia point, if you say like, what is Earth made of? By mass, it is made of iron more than anything else, and second, oxygen, and then everything else after that. So basically, we're a muddy rust ball is what Earth is. So an iron cathode is sort of, you're definitely not going to run out of iron. There's so much iron, it's insane. So that's, yeah. So this is really the main message of today. And I really wanted today to be not just about Tesla investors who own stock, but really anyone who is an investor in Earth. And what we're trying to convey is a message of hope and optimism. And optimism that is based on actual physics and real calculations. It's not wishful thinking. Earth can and will move to a sustainable energy economy, and will do so in your lifetime. Thank you. It's kind of weird seeing the arms and legs just separate. We have a whole lab full of arms and legs. Worth bearing in mind that when we did AI Day, this version of Optimus didn't walk at all. So the rate of improvement here, I think, is quite significant. It's obviously not doing parkour, but it is walking around, and we have multiple copies, I suppose, of Optimus. The thing that I think Tesla brings to the table that others don't have is that we have the real-world AI. We're the most advanced in real-world AI. So the same AI that drives the car, which you can think of the car really as a robot on wheels, and this is a robot on legs. So as we solve real-world AI, and I don't think there's anyone even close to Tesla on solving real-world AI. That same computer and software goes into Optimus. So it's not that helpful to have a humanoid robot if you have to program every individual action. It needs to be able to walk around autonomously and solve tasks. You should be able to instruct it in simple things by showing visually what the robot needs to do, or just telling it what to do. So I think that's a key advantage that we have. And then we also are good at designing things for manufacturing and then manufacturing itself. So the actuators in Optimus are all custom designed Tesla actuators. So we designed the electric motor, the gearbox, the power electronics, obviously the battery pack, and everything else that goes into Optimus. We were quite surprised to find how little was available off the shelf. Because there's a vast number of electric motors, gearboxes and whatnot, that are available in the world. And we found none of them were useful in a humanoid robot, literally none. So you have to custom design the actuators for a humanoid robot. And so the same team that designed the groundbreaking electric motors that are in the Model S Plaid designed the actuators in the robot. So, I mean, for practical purposes, what this means is that we should be able to bring an actual product to market at scale that is useful far faster than anyone else. And assuming that the things I'm saying are true, or at least you can put it, I think they are true. It's just a question of the timing. You start getting into interesting questions of like, what's the ratio of humans to humanoid robots? I think it might be greater than 1-to-1. Because you could sort of see a home use for robots, certainly industrial uses for robots, humanoid robots. I think we might exceed a 1-to-1 ratio of humanoid robots to humans. It's not even clear what an economy means at that point. Since an economy is output per person times persons, but if output is much higher and there's no limit on persons, then what's the actual limit on the economy? We're still pretty far from Kardashev scales here, but we're getting there. So anyway, it's probably the least understood or appreciated part of what we're doing at Tesla, but will probably be worth significantly more than the car side of things long term.
I hope you're enjoying the video. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel because I've got more Investor Day content coming out. Also, are you interested in getting up to $200 in free Tesla stock yourself? All you need to do is sign up for a new Robinhood account with my link in the description. Make sure to connect your bank and you're on your way to collecting your free stock. Also in the description, you'll find the links to all my social media, so make sure to follow me there as well. Thank you again. Now let's get into the Q&A.
All right, so, well, let's see. So this is probably the most significant announcement of the day is that we're excited to announce that we're going to be building a gigafactory in Mexico. Yeah, and we'll have obviously a grand opening and groundbreaking and whatnot. But we're excited to announce that the next Tesla Gigafactory will be in Mexico near Monterrey. So super excited about it. Now I do want to emphasize we will continue to expand production at all of our existing factories, so including California, Nevada, here in Texas, obviously, and Berlin, Shanghai. So we intend to increase production at all factories. So the Giga Mexico would be supplemental to the output of all the other factories. So this is not, to be clear, moving output from anywhere to anywhere. It is simply about expanding total global output. Yeah, so it's going to be good. So
peanut gallery.
Anyway, so I think that's Yeah, we're anyway, quite excited to announce that. In fact, I believe the governor is here. It's hard to see. Welcome. Secretary of State, I believe. Anyway, so we're looking forward to it and having a big event for the great groundbreaking and opening. So let's see. With that, we can move to I guess Q&A. We've obviously got significant bench strength here. Should probably have like a bench. And anyway, we maybe have too many people on stage, but we'll try to answer questions within reason. This is meant to be kind of more of a long-term sort of discussion as opposed to, what will be the production for the rest of the quarter type of thing. So let's try to orient our questions towards long-term value creation. And with that, fire away.
Hi, it's Rod Lash with Wolf Research. Very exciting plans about the next generation vehicle and powertrains and batteries. I was hoping you can maybe talk to us a little bit about the timeline for deploying this. And it sounds like it's more than just a vehicle. This is a kind of a paradigm change on how vehicles are assembled, how batteries are put together and everything. And does that also just get reconfigured into everything that you do? So the Model Ys that are being built here will be built very differently in the future. Maybe just give us some feel for what happens from here and what's the timeline for implementation.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about that, but broadly speaking, the most profound architectural changes will be in future vehicles. Retooling a factory means bringing the factory down for an extended period of time, and that would prefer not to do that, I think. But there are variants in how Model Y is produced. So we've got variants where there's rear casting, where there's a front and rear casting, and we have the structural battery pack. And then there are a number of smaller improvements that occur. But I think for really, really big changes, those would be future vehicles. Yeah, I don't know, you guys want to add?
Thanks. First, enhorabuena, Mexico. Vamos. That's great. Congratulations. Elon, a question on applying first principles thinking and innovation to an area that up to now has seemingly been outside of your control, and that is on mining and extraction of some of the key materials. I believe a couple years ago you had a patent on sodium chloride to extract lithium from some clays and spodumene clay and things of that nature. How does that fit into the plan of maybe bringing real innovation into a mining sector that could use a little, maybe waking up and getting those costs down? Because that could be a real gating factor, it seems.
Well, we're going to address whatever we think the limiting factor is at any point in time. So we would like to do the least amount possible. So we don't want to get into the mining or refining sector. We will do that if we have to. I do think the focus really should be on refining capacity. We need to make just a very giant amount of anode cathode lithium hydroxide, lithium carbonate. It's really the refining capacity that is the biggest choke point. Yeah, so that's why we're building a lithium refinery in Corpus Christi. And we're obviously building a cathode processing facility just adjacent to this building. So a little further down the road, you'll see another large construction. That's for cathode refining. But like I said, we'd really prefer if others did that. We're doing it because we have to, not because we want to.
Hi, Ben Kaler for Baird. So similar on the renewable side, is there more that you can do in Tesla to nudge the rest of the renewable industry to speed up, since it's such a big pillar of the Master Plan 3?
Well, I don't know what more we can do, but I can say that if there's like entrepreneurs out there that want to have like a guaranteed chance of success, it would be refining lithium or anode and cathodes or any materials whatsoever for lithium-ion cells. It's a no-brainer. Yep. I think we're doing everything we can. So.
Thank you. It's Philippe Bouchot at Jefferies. I've got two questions. The first one, when I think about in this industry, everybody wants to be Tesla. Every car maker is trying to emulate what you're doing. Well done. The one thing they don't do is focus on having as much growth as possible with as few models as possible. So I'm just trying to understand, as you aim for 20 million units in 2030, how many models do you think you need to get there? And how does it fit into your drive to hyperscale? How do you manage this? And also the fact that probably consumers at some point don't want to see a Tesla or the same Tesla at every street corner. So I'm just trying to get your sense of that. And my other question is on bidirectional. I mean, you talked a lot about making a world more renewables and better usage of cars. I think bidirectional charging is one way of better using cars, but you seem to have been reluctant about doing that in the past. So I'm just wondering what your latest views are on the topic.
Yeah. I don't think very many people are going to use bidirectional charging unless you have a Powerwall, because if you unplug your car, your house goes dark. And this is extremely inconvenient. If you have a Powerwall that can take the house load, then you can use your car as a supplementary energy source to the Powerwall, and then you're not going to drive everyone crazy by unplugging your car and having the house go off. So I think there's some value there as a supplemental energy source down the road, where if you have a Powerwall, you've not diminished the convenience of the people in the house.
And the question of number of models?
Sorry, the what? Oh, how many models? Oh,
vehicle models.
Not that many. Really, 10? I don't know. Not that many. What's happened with conventional cars is people have run out of things to do. So when you run out of things to do, they just end up reshuffling the deck, and you have pretty much the same. I mean, how many variants of car are there on the road? There's like hundreds. But are they good variants? No, mostly not. They're just variants for the sake of variants. But look at how have things converged with the phone? I mean, there used to be hundreds of flip phones. Now what do we have? It'll be like that.
One of the things I was struck by in the presentation was the operational efficiency metrics that you guys are talking about. Could you talk a little bit about the velocity of learning cycles and how you guys track that and think about that as an organization as you work into a variety of other areas from an innovation perspective?
It's something I should say with respect to demand, which I've said a few times over the years, but it sometimes needs to be said again, which is overwhelmingly there's the desire for people to own a Tesla is extremely high. The limiting factor is their ability to pay for a Tesla, not do they want a Tesla. It's easy for people in this room to lose sight of that. If your income is far in excess of what a car costs, then you look at value for money, but you do not consider affordability. But for the vast majority of people, it is affordability driven. This is why we cannot simply double the price of the car. Or you could say, and think about things in the limit, where if you had an infinitely desirable car, but it costs $10 million, it wouldn't matter because most people do not have that. So demand is very much a function of affordability, not desire. Very important. One of the things we weren't sure about was the price elasticity of demand for Teslas. So like, as we lower the price, how much does demand increase? And we found that even small changes in the price have a big effect on demand, very big. So that was a good thing to learn. Yeah. And then as this autonomy question is very, very big, because you could potentially have, I don't know, 5 times the utility of the asset that you currently have. So if a passenger car is 10 or 12 hours a week of usage, plus a lot of parking expenses, an autonomous car could be 50 to 60 hours a week or something like that. And you could get rid of a lot of parking expenses. So, you know, if this is true, then as autonomy is effectively turned on for the fleet, it probably will be the biggest asset value increase in history overnight.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Rosner from Deutsche Bank. So as you start launching this next generation vehicle and ramping up volume, what will be your nearest term priority in terms of segment or vehicles focus? The slide that you showed with 2 vehicles on the wrap seemed, based on form factor, one of them maybe looks like a van, another one looks like maybe like a smaller vehicle, like potentially a Model 2. I guess, what is the nearest term focus for you in terms of ramping up the next gen vehicle? And how do you make sure that by lowering the price point so much because the cost is going down 50%, you're not cannibalizing demand, you know, for your existing vehicles?
I mean, demand for our vehicles in terms of desire to own them may as well be infinite. It's indistinguishable from infinite at this point. So affordability is what matters. So as you make the car more affordable, we will have demand go crazy, basically. The issue is, how do we build the cars? The hard part is building the cars. I can't emphasize that enough. The hard part is building the cars and the entire supply chain that goes with the cars. This is a logistics challenge of extraordinary difficulty. All the things that have to go into the car have to scale with the car, while everything is doing an exponential ramp. And if you miss even one of those things, doesn't matter why, earthquake, flood, fire, revolution, I thought I've heard them all. I mean, any part of that supply chain gets interrupted, then you have a seizure. The hard part is building the cars by far, and the supply chain that goes with it. Yeah, I mean, there's like, I think, you know, it's an old saying, like, battles are won with tactics, wars are won with logistics. The logistics challenges here are enormous. And when you start like being a very significant percentage of an industry, you can't overcapacitize. It's not realistic. And some of these things, like you say, like, well, dual source or triple source, you can do that maybe for small things, but you can't do it for big things, because if you're triple sourced, and it's like having a plane with 3 engines, where if any of the 3 engines fails, you crash. It's like, you know, so, and you have to either overcapacitize, which drives your CapEx up, and it has idle suppliers somewhere and big warehouses, or you design to some overage that's, you know, reasonable, and then you have expedite costs because inevitably something goes wrong somewhere and you've got to fly things around. So it's really just the rate of progress is the rate at which we are able to scale 10,000 logistics problems. The most significant of those is the cell production. And so we actually deliberately try to overdo cell production or cell supply to have that exceed what is needed in vehicles. Because if it goes below what's needed in vehicles, then the factories stall. But then what do you do with all these extra cells? It's like, well, okay, so the much easier thing to scale up and down is Powerwall and Megapack output, stationary storage. So we can then overcapacitize in cells and packs and scale production of stationary storage, which is much easier to scale than vehicle production. So that's strategically, I think, a good thing. Yeah, I mean, the capex for Megapack is tiny compared to capex for vehicles. Also, Megapack demand is quasi-infinite. It basically, as long as we are competitive with utilities, we can sell as many yeah, quasi-infinite demand for that, really. Or many terawatt hours. And we got a long way to go to get to many terawatt hours per year.
Thanks. Two questions, one for Zach, one for Ashok. So for Zach, how do you think about the long-term growth and operating margins for the business? And when we look at 150 to 175 billion in capex, is the remaining balance of that, is that essentially the capex guidance through 2030? For Ashok, the multi-trip reconstruction that you highlighted, how is that different from what Mobileye does with the REM map that they have? And can you give us any color on the AP4 hardware?
It's something that's, I don't know if we touched on this much, but in terms of training, we have one of the biggest neural net training systems in the world, and that we expect to increase that capability by an order of magnitude by the end of this year, and probably another order of magnitude by the end of next year, with some combination of NVIDIA and Dojo. So by much of the scale of that is quite dawned on people. It's enormous.
Okay, Alex Potter with Piper. So I definitely want to ask Drew or anybody else up there for an update on dry battery electrode, right? So if you're going to try to overcapacitize towards cells, scale a lot of this, clearly there's a lot of moving pieces and it's a complex sort of orchestra with the supply chain, but a lot of it comes down to dry battery electrode, at least to me. So how are you trending? That was the most fascinating part of the factory tour for me, and looking through that window and seeing that this is clearly not a science project, but anything that you're willing to disclose, yields, progress, where you are today versus where you thought you were going to be. Yeah, thanks.
The dry electrode problem is really quite a hard problem. I mean, we acquired Maxwell really just for the dry electrode technology, but just illustrates what a gigantic gap there is between something working at small scale and at large scale. And we've had an extremely talented team of engineers working on scaling the dry electrode process and having it be reliable and consistent. And we've been grinding hard, literally and figuratively, on this for quite a while. It seems likely that we will be able to scale it to volume this year.
I have two questions. This has really been a very impressive afternoon. Thank you so much. Elon, I'm curious, as you've doubled and you'll double again, what you've learned about sort of managing a larger enterprise and what you might have to do to manage a bigger enterprise. And then secondly, I'm curious on your thoughts on how generative AI and these rapid breakthroughs in AI in the last months could help you make cars sort of, less hard to make.
I don't see AI helping us make cars anytime soon. At that point, I mean, at no point any of us working, I think.
Big problems.
She'll just chill out. I mean, I'm a little worried about the AI stuff. I think it's something, I don't know, which we should be concerned about. I don't know, I think we should need some kind of like regulatory authority or something that's overseeing AI development and just making sure that it's operating within the public interest. And it's quite a dangerous technology. And I fear I may have done some things to accelerate it, which is, I don't know. So, I mean, some of the AI stuff I think is just obviously useful, like what we're doing with self-driving, which is, some people think is an AGI type problem. I don't think it's quite an AGI problem, but it's certainly requires very sophisticated neural nets because the road system is designed for eyes and biological neural nets. So naturally, the analog to that is cameras with digital neural nets. Yeah, the thing we found is just there's if you actually look at our neural net architecture in the car, it's kind of insane, frankly. Nets upon nets upon nets upon nets.
Yeah, the visualization tool crashes when you open.
Yeah.
It's like so complicated that no one can visualize this right now.
Yeah, it's hard to yeah, just like literally, it looks insane. So I guess something like that's happening in our brains while we drive around, which is pretty wild. So, you know, I don't know. Like Tesla's doing good things in AI. I don't know. This one stresses me out, so I don't know what to think to say about it. You know.
That was everything Elon Musk said at Tesla's 2023 Investor Day. Let me tell you, my favorite part was hands down when we got to see the Tesla bot building another Tesla bot. Blows my mind. I know we still have a little ways to go, but this is a huge step in the right direction. And to think, this robot didn't even exist 2 years ago. Seriously incredible technology. If you want to invest in Tesla, use my link in the description where you're going to be able to get up to $200 in Tesla stock by signing up for a new Robinhood account with my link in the description and connecting your bank. After that, you're ready to claim your stock. Also in the description, you can find the links to all my social media, from YouTube to TikTok to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So make sure to follow me there as well. And you can support the channel on Patreon for as little as $1 a month to get early access to all of my videos. It would be really appreciated and is going to help me continue to make awesome content for you all. That's it for this episode. Thank you for watching Forward Tech with Akhan. Until next time.